Welcome back to Case by Case. This is Diabolical, episode 2. I've started this series simply because if you are a true crime fanatic like me, you love some of the worst stories to remind us of the evil in this world. And today is going to be the story of Michelle Blair, not Michelle, Michelle with a T. Michelle Blair in 2014 was served an eviction notice at her property in Michigan. And she was not home. The landlord arrived with the court appointed officer to serve the eviction notice. And with Michelle not being there, the landlord opened the door and allowed the court officers access to begin to remove articles of belongings out to the curb. And in doing so, they stumbled upon one of the most horrific things you could possibly imagine. And we are going to dive into some of the details in this case. So I'm going to start off with a trigger warning right now. If physical abuse and horrific crimes against children does not sit well with you, this may not be an episode for you to watch. In the meantime, we're going to take a look at the property that Michelle lived at, some video of the inside of her home and it's just a disgusting situation that children were required to live in. And you will learn that Michelle has no empathy for her actions, for what she was accused of, what she pled guilty to, the circumstances surrounding the death of 2 of her 4 children. She had 2 girls and 2 boys. She was a single mother. She reported that herself, she was abused as a child, sexually abused, in fact, by a female. And when she went to her mother for help, apparently her words fell on deaf ears. Does that make her behavior any less indifferent to the rules of society and how things of such natures in this case should be handled? These 2 younger children, let me move myself. Stephen and Stoney, ages 9 and 13, were discovered in the apartment where Michelle resided with all 4 of her children. And we're going to take a look now at the inside of her deplorable conditions at her residence.
But today, the medical examiner also revealed heartbreaking details about how Blair allegedly tortured her children before killing them. 7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig is live in Detroit right now with details for us. Kim?
And Carolyn and Glenda, you talk about heartbreaking. This is probably one of the hardest cases I've had to sit through in my 20 years of reporting. And it was so sad to hear the medical examiner talk about how these children had been beaten and were so grossly malnourished, even the court reporter could be seen wiping away tears. These are photographs taken from inside the townhouse where investigators say Michelle Blair tortured her children and killed 2 of them. We're told she first killed her 9-year-old son, Stephen, in August of 2012 and then shoved his body in this freezer. About a year later, Blair is accused of killing her 13-year-old daughter, Stoney, and putting her body on top of Stephen's.
Both had been slapped in the face. Both of them had chipped teeth, and both of them had actual tears in the mucous membrane of the inner aspect of the lip.
Dr. Carl Schmidt from the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office says it took 2 days to thaw the children's bodies before he could examine them, and what he found was nothing short of horrifying. On 13-year-old Stoney, he says the blows to her head were too many to count.
And actually the entire scalp was suffused with hemorrhage, which meant that she had received numerous impacts over the head.
And then there's 9-year-old Stephen, who we're told had countless burns all over his body.
When we see burn patterns like this, it means that there was some kind of object with 4 parallel lines which left the brand. It's like branding. You left that pattern on the skin.
In this custody trial, the state is trying to terminate Michelle Blair's parental rights to her 2 surviving children, as well as their father's rights. The state calling them deadbeat dads who rarely saw or even called to check in on their children to see if they were okay. Before
Now we know that the children lived with Michelle. She claimed that the children's fathers had no interaction with the kids, refused to see the kids. One of the fathers she reported to be an alcoholic, and she literally had major outbursts in the courtroom when they had to give their victim impact statements. The prosecutor spoke on their behalf, and Michelle completely lost it, as if she had any right to call anybody a deadbeat parent. Her two surviving children, after the horrific finding of the two in the freezer, both showed signs of being, physically abused, bruises, chipped teeth. And it was also reported that Michelle made her oldest daughter at the time, who I believe was 17, help her dispose of her younger 13-year-old sister into the freezer, where the bodies sat for months. And family and friends surrounding Michelle, they were told that the two younger kids had been sent off to live somewhere else because they had misbehaved, and she no longer wanted them in the home. And when Michelle was arrested, she immediately became kind of, first of all, she confessed. And she made no ifs, ands, or buts about the fact that she is not evil, but the act that she committed was evil. But she tries to justify her imposing the death sentence on two of her children for the fact that she claims these two children, Stoney and Stephen, were physically and sexually abusing her youngest son. So she was first initially told one day when she came home and interrupted the younger son playing on the floor with toys. And apparently Michelle claimed that the toys were being played with inappropriately. And she confronted the child and wanted to know why he was playing with those toys that way and where he learned that behavior. And the young boy told her that his brother, Stephen, had been doing things to him. And we are going to let Michelle, I'm going to play for you in her own words, her confessing to the judge exactly what she did to her son and daughter. But for about 2 weeks, this young child, the 9-year-old Stephen, sustained horrific abuse, torture, beatings, starvation, as punishment for what her youngest son claimed Stephen had been doing to him. And eventually she took his life. Now, it's my understanding that she claims that that was not her intention initially, but once it was done, it was done. She has no regrets. She called them evil demons and said that she would do it again if she had it to do all over. Then about 9 months later, she determined that, based on more stories that her youngest son had told her, that not only had his brother been abusing him, but that his sister, Stoney, had also participated. And Michelle goes into great detail about what she was told and how she dispensed her punishment to her two children. It is a horrific set of details. Trigger warning right here, right now. But this is a case that it shocks the soul. And, on one hand, you want to believe that this woman is mentally disturbed. But she knows right from wrong. She clearly knows right from wrong. And she has no remorse. And despite her child abuse in her past, that does not give her the right to be judge, jury, and executioner on someone else. There was another way that she could have handled this. There was another, and to be honest, there has not been any proof presented to the court that the younger child actually did sustain abuse.
All right, has Mr. Harris discussed with you that you will need to establish what's known as a factual basis?
Yes.
Okay. Has anyone made any promises to you in order to get you to enter this plea?
No,
Okay. Again, this is your voluntary choice to enter this plea.
it is.
Okay. And subject yourself to a mandatory life sentence.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now let's go through. Ms. Blair, what did you do to Stony Blair that makes you guilty of premeditated murder?
She raped my son. I intentionally killed her.
How did you do that?
Starting from the beginning, when I found out about what Stony was doing to Matthew, it was 9 months later after finding out about Stephen. So for the whole 9 months we were in the house, she was still raping my child. I did not know that. When I first found out, after Maddie told me, I took a minute because I was not understanding, that she did that to him. But I repeatedly punched her. On many occasions, my son, I told him to tell me every single thing that she did to him. So as she was telling me, he was telling me more and more things that she did. I assaulted her every time he told me what she did to him. By assault, I mean I punched her. I have put a bag over her head till she lost consciousness. I threw hot water on her, scalding hot water from the faucet.
Now, the interesting thing right here, I just have to stop it right here, is that she, as forthcoming as she is about these details, does it seem plausible at all that a 13-year-old girl living in these conditions, who has witnessed her mother already take the life of her younger brother, would continue to perpetrate the same behavior that her brother was accused of and was tortured and murdered? That her 13-year-old daughter would continue doing these same horrific things to the younger child, Matthew, in the home. I find that absolutely agreed. I don't believe that for 1 minute. Not 1 minute do I believe that.
Did you hit her in the head with a wooden
Yes,
stick?
I hit her on her head multiple times, over and over.
Was that shortly before she died?
That was actually days before she died and the day she died.
Okay.
I hit her on her back. It's like with her tailbone. I kicked her.
Okay, I just want to clarify a few things. And perhaps you don't know, but did this happen on or about May 25th, 2014? To the
May
best of your
May
recollection?
25th is actually the day she died. Well, the day I killed her.
And you said you killed her by putting a grocery bag over her head?
Yes, that day, Maddie would tell me different things because she was doing this to him for years, and I did not know that. You get what I'm saying? And I didn't find out till 9 months later. She had started with Stephen. She ruined my son, okay? She started with Stephen before he even started. So, yes, I put a bag over her head, but it got worse that day. Yes, I did. It got worse that day because Matthew would tell me how she would take her pad, her menstrual pad, and squeeze her blood out in his mouth, okay? And it was over with after that. It was over with.
You meant to kill her?
I definitely meant to kill her.
Okay. It wasn't an accident?
No, not at all. If I had a chance to do it again, I would.
When you went and got the grocery bag and suffocated her, that was your intent?
Yes. She was standing in the bathtub. I was throwing hot water on her. My son was standing to my right outside the bathroom door, and he was telling me everything he was telling me. I looked at her, and I'm like, "You did this?" And she was like, "Yes." So I actually had a stick, and I was hitting her in the head. Every time he told me something, I hit her very hard in her head, and I was throwing hot water on her. And when I actually took her out of the bathroom, I took her back in her room, and I just kept staring at her, and I said, excuse my language. But I'm like, why the fuck would you do this to him? Just like, you know, I'm constantly asking her. She kept saying, I hate him. And I'm like, you hate him? You know? And she admitted to me that she hated Gabrielle, she hated Steven, she hated everybody. And I'm asking her why. She says, everybody always think Matthew's so cute. And I'm like, so you like your brother, because you get what I'm saying. So I meant to. I definitely meant to. And I do not feel any remorse for what I did to Stoney, because she had no remorse for what she did to my son. And it's not only raped him, she gang raped him with Steven. Matthew Ross sitting on the floor, and he was telling me, this is how I found out about both of them doing it together. But it was too late. Steven was gone. But Matthew told me that Stoney would actually make him sit there while, in his words, her and Stoney did the nasty stuff, and then they did it to him. And
So this was your way of inflicting punishment?
Definitely.
Okay. Okay. Where did that happen?
What?
Where did it?
The death?
Her actual death?
Yes.
Right
Not the location of the house. Where did you live at the time?
804 St. Albans Street.
Is that in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
can we ask Ms. Blair if she ever actually saw or witnessed?
All right. Tell me what happened to Stephen.
Basically the same thing. Can I ask you a question first? The people standing behind me, this woman who just asked the question, is she trying to make it seem like this did not happen?
No. We just have to have a clear record.
Okay.
Can I have
This
a
is your
moment?
time to talk. Go
Can I have a
ahead.
moment? All we're trying to do is just make sure that the record is clear. Okay. And so don't worry about them behind you. Just do what she asked you.
I mean, right now,
Thank you,
ma'am,
Your
this is just you choosing to plead guilty. The people did not have any sort of plea agreement.
Yeah, because
with
you know,
at all.
it's like I'm willing to take a polygraph test. It's like, because I understand people don't want to hear me, period, but I'm willing to
I'm
take
here.
on
I'm listening to
everything.
you. Tell me what happened to Stephen.
I came home one day, my daughter Gabrielle, my oldest, met me at the door, and she's like, Mom, come see what Maddie doing with his dials. And I'm like, what is he doing? He was making one dial, his little wrestle man, hump on top of the other. No, I'm like, Maddie, why was you doing that? I said, anybody ever do this to you? He said, no. I said, then why are you doing that? And he said, yes, Stephen did. And I was like, so this is the first I'm hearing about that, period. This was 9 months before Stoney. Okay, Stoney wasn't downstairs, and she was always in the background. I wish to God I had questioned everybody together, but I didn't.
Would you say this was around August 30th, 2012?
No, this was before August 30th. August 30th is when he died.
Okay.
This was
When-
maybe a week and a half.
Before he died?
Yes.
Okay. So that, Matthew telling you that set off some action?
Yes, I went
that you did
upstairs
with
because
Go ahead.
Stephen was upstairs in his and Matthew's room. And I went upstairs and I said, Stephen, Matthew said you was humping on him. And then Stephen stood up and he looked at me, and right then I could tell something was wrong in his face, because he was just like this. Any normal kid, I know my kid would have been like, what? That's not what he did. He stood up and looked at me like he done lost his mind, okay? And it just, hearing that from him had me fucked up in my head, period. But I asked him, I said, Stephen, tell me the fucking truth. Was you humping on Matthew? He said, yes, but that was all. And I said, did you hump on him with your underwear off? He said, no. Matthew yelled out, yes, he did. And I just remember going in the hallway, walking back and forth, like, and I walked back up and I was like, you fucked your brother? You get what I'm saying? You fucked your brother. So I'm looking at them too. I'm looking at them like, what? I can't understand. So I started punching Stephen. You know, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing to him? I just started asking him questions. Matthew at this point is just spilling out. He's just spilling out. And Mom, and he's doing like this, and he do this thing almost every night. He tell me how he was, the reason I put bags over Stephen's head is because if we had Maddie, I thought Maddie peed in the bed. My son was never a bed wetter. Didn't know it was Stephen waking up every morning pissing on Matthew like he was a damn piece of shit, okay? They had bunk beds. Stephen would get out the bed, in the middle of the night, you would rape him in his own bed, you would pee on him instead of going to the bathroom. I'm waking up every morning thinking Matthew's a bedwetter. So we just wash him up and go, you a bedwetter.
Let's talk
So
about what you did to Stephen.
the reason I put bags over Stephen's head is because my son told me that the plastic on his bed, because I thought he was a bedwetter, he said, sometimes, Mom, I couldn't breathe. Stephen was laying on me, and he had my face down, and the plastic on the bed, I couldn't breathe, and he was humping on my butt like a basketball. That's when I got a garbage bag and started putting it over Stephen's head, and I started asking him, bitch, you know what I'm saying? You see what this feel like? You can't breathe? You stop my... That's my son. You could not breathe on top of getting raped. You was 6 years old at the time. You get what I'm saying? So I put the bags over his head. He lost consciousness. I did that a couple times. He told me that Matty would be face down. He had stuff around his neck. So I grabbed Stephen, I grabbed a belt, and I put a belt around his neck, and I lifted him up like, do you like how this feels, being choked with a belt? So I dropped him. I held him up until he lost consciousness as well.
You were intending to...
No, I did not intend to kill Stephen.
No, I'm not... Listen to my question. You were intending to inflict serious physical harm, but not kill him.
Definitely.
Okay. Did you also punch him?
Yes, I did. Multiple
also kick
times.
him?
Yes, I did.
You talked about choking him. Did you also burn him?
Yes, I did.
Okay, how did you do that?
Hot water. Scalding hot water. In our bathroom, the hot water gets extremely hot. So, his private area, I stood him in the bathtub naked. You fucked up my son with your dick, you know? So yes, I threw hot water in his genital area multiple times. Multiple times. Every time Stephen peed in my son's eyes. He put his dick in his ears, his nose. He peed. Matthew even told me one time, Mom, and in my eyes it was gooey. But it wasn't pee. And then right then, it was like, I didn't even know a 9-year-old could ejaculate. You get what I'm saying? So not only did you do that, you done it in my son's eyes. So my son had to go through all of this shit. So yes, I threw hot water on him repeatedly.
Did that make him burn?
Yes, it did. His skin came off.
Did you
His
also
skin
make
came
him
off.
drink Windex?
Yes, I did, because Matthew told me in the middle of the night he had took him in the basement and he made him drink the blue stuff from under the sink. And I'm like, what blue stuff? So I walked Maddie downstairs. He showed me what I said. You made Maddie drink fucking Windex. And then I went back to like years before, and I'm like, is this what was wrong with him? I thought Matthew had the stomach flu, where you vomit and have diarrhea. You get what at the same time? At that time, this is what was going around. A lot of people had it, so this is what I thought Matthew had. He didn't. Stephen made him drink Windex. So yes, I made that boy drink Windex.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify the record. Okay, again, you knew you were seriously harming him, but you didn't intend to murder him.
No.
Okay. But your actions ultimately caused his death.
Yes, they did.
Okay. Were you Stephen's mother?
Yes.
He was in your custody?
I don't claim him as my son now, and I do not claim Stoney as my daughter. I have 2 children. That's it. Stephen and
time he
Stoney
died?
are demons. Period.
Listen to my question. At the time he died, he was in your custody or care?
Yes.
Okay. How old was he?
Stephen was 9.
And again, did this happen at your house in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
What you did to Stephen was punishment for what you did to Maddie, is that right?
For what he did to Matthew.
Sorry,
Yes.
for what Stephen did to
Yes.
Maddie. That was punishment. All
And
right.
if I had killed Stephen intentionally, I definitely would be proud to say I did. But I didn't. But I know all the things that I did to him, how I hurt him, I know it did cause his death. You know what I'm saying? It was like that day, the day that he died, I went in his room, it was throw up in front of him on the bed. I got him up. He said he had to go to the bathroom, but he couldn't use the bathroom. By the time we came out the bathroom, his breathing was crazy. Stephen usually has a strong heartbeat, but it was really faint, really, really faint. And then all of a sudden, he just started going like this, and I was holding him. We were both sitting on the floor, and I'm actually holding him up. He couldn't even hold himself. I'm like, Stephen, doing like this, because the day before that, I actually said, I'm going to stop, because I looked in the room, and like, he is toe up, you know.
Were you starving him at this time as well?
No, I never starved him, and that's another thing that they're not understanding. He may have lost weight, but because they also they had their hands in Matthew and they controlled him in every type of way, down to food. They would take his meat basically. We didn't always eat together. I thought him and Stephen was very close, so Stephen would manipulate me. Mom, can me and Maddie eat up in our room? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I'm thinking that's his best friend, that's his brother. That's how he made it seem. But that's a lie. He kept Matthew up under his wing on purpose. Matthew never wanted to be around Stephen, and I don't know how I didn't see that. So they would take his food and would actually only let him eat his vegetables. So yes, when I fed Stephen, he only got vegetables and like healthy things, and it was minimal, like oatmeal and things like that. He did not get meat. You stole from my son. And actually, when I tried to feed him, my son Matthew said, Mom, that's bold. They used to take my food all the time. That's bold. You get what I'm saying? So yes. Now Stony, I did starve her. I did. 9 more months, you going, your big ass. She was 13. My son told me how she used to sit on his face, and he said, Mom, it stinks real bad. And she was, you know what I'm saying? Fuck that. Yes, I did. And then oatmeal is all that girl got. And she's lucky she got that once a day.
Stoney only got oatmeal? Is that what you're saying?
Oatmeal once a day. She's very lucky she got that. And I used to have to hide the fact that I was giving her oatmeal for Matthew because he didn't want me to feed her, and he had every right to feel that way.
Hold on. Miss Blair, can we get next one here?
No, I'm good.
You're okay? Okay. I just have a few more questions. When you were physically harming Stephen, was it ever your intent to also cause any sort of serious mental harm?
Well, I don't understand what you mean.
When you were hurting him physically, was it also your intent to cause any sort of serious mental harm?
What do you mean, mentally damage him?
Yes.
Like beating him in the head?
No, like making it so that his thoughts aren't right.
No,
Does
never.
that make sense? Okay.
Physical
That wasn't your
punishment on what you did to my child, because I had always told my kids the worst thing you can ever do to somebody is rape them. I always told my son that, and I always told the girls the worst thing you could do is cry rape on somebody if they didn't rape you. They fully knew what they were doing.
So you were only intending physical punishment?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now, just so that I'm clear, you weren't allowing them to treat your other children like this, were you?
What do you mean?
You weren't allowing them to sexually assault.
No, I wasn't allowing that. I never knew.
That's exactly,
you get what I'm saying?
That's exactly what I wanted to know. You didn't know until afterwards.
It's like...
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's this one instance, I was asleep. I said, Matthew, why you didn't tell me? He said, Mom, I even ran in the hallway and I had your hand. I was asleep. My son ran out and grabbed my hand. He was 6 and he was doing like this, trying to wake me up. Stephen was grabbing him back by the back of his shirt, pulling me. And I said, Matthew, why didn't you just scream out? He said, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? He even had my hand pulling on me, trying to wake me up. And since I'm a hard sleeper, I didn't wake up. So to hear my son say that to me is real fucked up. That should happen right up under my nose. So, man, I don't regret none of this. I don't regret any of it. Matthew is my son. That's my baby. There's no way that his brother and sister should know what he feels like inside. There's no way.
Understood.
I don't.
So, what a horrific story. And I'm a little confused on the questioning by the judge. Like, what makes the difference if she, I mean, clearly if you're repeatedly hitting someone in the head, what is your intention? I mean, clearly you know that there's going to be some sort of damage done to the head. And why does that, her intent about it, make a difference? Does that change the sentencing that she got? Because she pled guilty and she got a life sentence without the possibility of parole. And I guess for me, you know, you never know what's going on behind closed doors, but see something, say something. And how was it possible that these 2 children were missing for over a year? And it took an eviction notice for them to be stumbled upon. No one in the family came looking, no father, no one from school, neighbors. And then to think, you know, how the other two children in the home, how were they surviving this, walking past this freezer every single day, knowing that their siblings were stacked in the freezer, one on top of the other? Um, and I wonder now that this is all said and done, because this happened back in 2015, what those two surviving children are going through now. They've had therapy, where they ended up, because it didn't seem like any of the four children had really anyone in their life but their mother, who ended up being probably one of the worst stories of the acts of a mother that I've ever heard. So, do you think that someone like Michelle Blair is suffering from some sort of mental delusion? Or do you think she's as evil as the acts that she committed? Or do you think her rational senses, excuse me, her rationale about what punishment her children deserved, how did she not believe that her kids themselves needed help through, children's services or psychiatrists, medical treatment, for whatever reason that led to them creating, this environment for their younger brother? And what are your thoughts about Michelle? I mean, do you believe she's just pure evil? Yes, I do. I think she is. But I also think that there's something, there's some sort of mental disability with her as well, for her to not understand that this wasn't her, this wasn't her, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't her ability. It wasn't her right to choose the death sentence for these two children as punishment. And that's where I feel the disconnect is. So again, this is a tragic, horrible story. However, this is one of many that I've come across in the last decade, where parents have been able to get away not only with taking the lives of their own children, but being able to hide it to the point where these children are missing for months, even years, before they're discovered. And that's just unacceptable in this day and age. It really is. So tell me what you think of Michelle. And she is serving a life sentence. And I did reach out to her for comment to see if after, there's been distance between her sentencing and her pleading guilty to where she's at in prison now. Has she gotten any help? Does she still feel as though she had the right to do what she did? And also maybe she now feels regret. And I wanted to ask her, is it regret because her rights have been taken away and she's now behind bars? Or does she ever look back and think how she might have handled things differently? But unfortunately, Michelle has not responded. So I don't have that conversation to share with you. But if she ever does, I will give you an update. In the meantime, thanks for being here. Hit that like button and subscribe. We will see you next time on Diabolical.